Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Coping. Today, we're excited to begin a new four-part series exploring a concept known as internal family systems, or IFS. This is a way of understanding our inner world by getting to know the different parts within us and was created by Richard Schwartz.
Yeah, that's right. So IFS has been around for a while now, but it's become more popular. And I've actually had some therapy rooted within the IFS theory. And basically, it's grounded in the simple idea that we all have different parts inside of us. And if you're listening now and wondering what that means, you've probably felt different parts of yourself throughout your life. A part of you that wants to speak up, another that feels afraid, another one that feels brave. One part of us wants to let go, another one can't stop holding on. So sometimes these parts are in conflict with one another. And so at the heart of IFS is the truth that there are no bad parts of you. It can't be said enough.
Yeah, even the ones that we struggle with, like
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, self-doubt, are all trying to protect us. They carry pain often from way back in our past, and they're just
Mm-hmm.
doing the best we can.
That's right. Well, let's get started. And so today we're talking about the different roles of IFS. And so in the same way that there's many parts of ourselves, there are these overarching categories or roles that exist within us. And today we're going to be focusing on one role called the exiles. So, this part of us is the one that carries the deepest wounds. This part holds on to memories of trauma and rejection, abandonment, and shame, all of those negative and difficult feelings. And when those parts of us get triggered, it can certainly feel very overwhelming. And those triggering moments can suddenly bring you back to that old pain, that old trauma, whatever age you were when it happened.
Yes. What's been your experience with this?
It's been very eye opening going through therapy utilizing IFS because what I didn't realize is that times in my life when I've gotten the most upset or the most hurt, it's because there's been a part of myself that was wounded, that remains wounded, and hasn't been tended to. And I would often cope with that pain by reacting in a way that I didn't want to. And so I realize now through IFS that there's a part of myself that's still holding on to that pain, that's still as deeply wounded as I was when the experience happened. And I'm carrying that with me. And so I still carry those wounded parts with me today, but I'm much more attentive to those parts of myself and aware that they exist.
Hmm.
I know you've done a lot of reading on IFS. What has your experience been in reading the work and thinking about your own life?
Sure. I think what is very interesting to me is that as a work as a coach, that I think that I'm speaking a lot to exiles. That's what occurred to me when I'm doing the work with students, that there are wounded parts that are crying out for help and that are even acting out in destructive ways in their life. And I never knew how to frame that prior to it. Sometimes it would be frustrating to just say, why do they keep acting or talking about this in the same way, almost like a broken record? Exiles are broken
Mm-hmm.
records because
Mm-hmm.
they're echoing pain from years past.
And what's that like to be working with students who have these wounded parts? And how does that relate to your own wounded parts, those
Sure.
exiles within you?
I would say that the framework has given me more empathy toward myself for parts of
Mm-hmm.
myself that
Right.
are playing that same tape over and over, which basically are lies, myths, falsehoods about who I
Mm-hmm.
am and what I believe about myself. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would say overall it gives me more empathy for doing the work with others. Also, what I was going to say is that I've understood as a coach that I am not equipped to help people who are stuck in exile work. And this is what we want to say today as well, is that if you are needing extra help with this, you must go to someone who is actually trained in this type of work. This is not something that necessarily you can just read about and it will be okay for you. is one of the things that I've learned as a coach.
Yeah, that's so right. You can learn about the theory, but you really need a guide to walk you through the therapy of IFS. And, there's no shame in that. As I shared, I myself work with a therapist that utilizes IFS therapy, and it's been very meaningful and transformative for me.
I love the summary that Richard Schwartz, who is the founder of IFS, in his book, No Bad Parts, he says, parts are not what they have been commonly thought to be. They are sacred, spiritual beings, and they deserve to be treated as such.
It's such a big shift. I love that quote because I think we're brought up to be hard on ourselves with the idea that we need to work those parts of ourselves that we don't like out and to push them away and to discipline them and into disappearance. And what I've learned from this work is that instead of pushing away these parts of ourselves, and that's such a big shift, right? Because most of us were taught to push these parts of ourselves away, to silence the hurt, to just, toughen up or just move on.
Yes, but the best part in IFS, these wounded parts aren't seen as problems. They're exiles. That very word, they've been sent away, tender, burdened, often very young parts of us that got overwhelmed and pushed aside. And not because we didn't care, but because we didn't know how else to survive.
That's right. And here's the thing. Exiles aren't just pain. They also carry some of the most beautiful parts of ourselves. It's where our creativity, our playfulness, that innocence that we had in our childhood, which is also our vulnerability, and those parts are so important because those are the places in which we create and make really meaningful connections with other people, but also in our own lives.
Yes, and the saddest part of the exiles is that to protect ourselves, we lock those very important parts away, right? We bury them by being distracted, overfunctioning, numbing out, anything to avoid feeling what the exiles are carrying.
It's so true. I find that I do this in my own life, whether it's numbing out or trying to push that exile away because I don't like a part of myself or I want that part of myself to change. How do you see yourself locking the exiles away in your life?
I think when I'm not stopping to pause to feel what's actually going on in the moment, whether I'm afraid for the future or depressed about something that happened in the past, so anxiety or depression, being present to our pain every single day, taking time to pause, to check in, to see how we're doing and what's going on with us, is tending to the parts. My tendency to just keep going without stopping is not paying attention to the exiles.
Yeah, that's right. And so when an exile does get triggered, it can feel a lot like losing your footing. It's because that part of you is still frozen in time. It's still holding all of the emotions and beliefs that it picked up at the moment when the wounding happened. And so if you've had that moment of being triggered and feeling really small or feeling like that child being yelled at by an adult, whatever that isolating, wounded experience that you had then, all of those emotions come flooding back in when the triggering event happens.
Yes, and a good question that we can ask ourselves is, can you remember a moment when your reaction felt much bigger than the situation? And that could have been an exile, you see, a part of you asking not to be forgotten. It's sort of like crying out in those moments and times and spaces, even when it doesn't make any sense specifically.
Right. And that's one of the really beautiful things about this work is the reframe of the exile. It's also a reframe of a triggering experience. Whereas we would view a triggering experience as something that needs to be rooted out and gotten rid of and to stop. And instead, IFS says, no, it's actually a part of yourself crying out for help and for support. And so instead of exiling that part of yourself further, it's to actually pull them into the center, pull them towards the heart and care for them, much like an exile needs to be cared for.
Yes, and in time when we begin to practice this over and over, something powerful happens. When your exiles are seen, valued and held and not judged or abandoned, they begin to soften, they begin to trust, and then you begin to experience healing.
Yeah, and so this is really hard work. Like we said, it often requires a companion, somebody who knows IFS that can walk you through it and guide you, because it does take you to some wounded and painful parts when you're working on the exiles. It's worth it. When you are able to go to the margins of yourself, find those exiles and listen and attend to them, there's healing that begins to happen in some of those deeply wounded places. And so today's message is really complex, yet we're trying to help offer it in a simple and understandable way. And that's that you're not broken. Those intense emotions, that tenderness that you're trying to hide, it's not weakness. It's a part of you. It's a part that deserves to be known and to be loved.
So today, Kevin will be closing us with a meditation actually adapted from the founder of No Bad Parts and IFS, Richard Schwartz. And for whatever you may be coping with today, whatever parts you're coping with today, blessings to you.
Let's take a few deep breaths together. Breathing in and exhale. Breathing in and exhale. Now just find a comfortable breathing rhythm, whatever that is for you. Wherever you are right now, find yourself in a comfortable position. Whether you're sitting in a chair, well supported, laying down, feeling comfortable, or walking. Allow your body to relax. And as you relax, gently scan your body and your mind. Take notice of any place that feels tense, heavy, foggy, or not quite like you. Pick one of those places in your body or your mind and softly bring your attention there. Just notice it without trying to change it. Now, see if that part can notice you. Tell that part you're not alone. If it feels natural, offer a bit of kindness, a warm breath, a comforting word, or simply your presence. You don't need to fix anything. Just let that part know you're here with it and that it's not alone, because you're here now, and that is enough. Amen.